Hello and welcome back. I am so excited to have you with us. Welcome to This is Living, the show that is really highlighting a place that is not actually a destination, but it's an up-leveled way of thinking, believing, and therefore living that opens doors and creates great new chapters from women from all over. I'm Julie Landy. I'm your host today and also the founder of Live Your Vision, an international coaching company that helps women from all over discover, develop, and distribute their unique gifts for greater impact, income, and fulfillment. I'm thrilled to be able to watch the women that we work with have transformative changes, the likes I've really sometimes am humbled to see. And they do come and we watch these changes occur, and they are deep and meaningful changes. We are so happy to also host different events that enable women that are not yet part of our community to sample some of this magic that we have here. And in that, we are hosting this show called This is Living in order to do that. This is Living includes events that highlight personal development, spiritual development, professional development, financial development, relational development, and yes, self-care and wellness development. It is something that all the women that we've worked with have asked for more support. These are the 5 main areas that we continually get requests for. So if you want to learn more about these areas, we're going to be bringing in experts from all over the world to be able to speak to those areas of our lives as women. Just like, follow, subscribe, join us, continue to stay tuned. We'd love to have you with us. Today, I'm thrilled to be hosting what we call our Living in Wellness series. And it's an interview series with professionals from, again, all over the world that have wellness tips for you and for me. It's a special time of year. I know many of us are getting ready to, shed some layers and want to be the healthiest that we can be. Certainly, to be able to live out my vision, I need support in this area. I would not claim to be an expert in wellness or self-care either. I'd rather call myself a flunky in that area. I need a lot of support, that's for sure. And I'm so thrilled about today's guest, who is truly on Team Julie in this area. She has helped me so much. But it is exciting to think that, you know what, I don't have to be good at everything, but we can have support to be able to help us to do that. I'd like to also remind you that if you're interested, we have an interview series that is culminating in a special event that will enable you to sample more of these incredible experts on April 20th. It is our Living in Wellness little event. I shouldn't say little, it's 90 minutes of wellness just for you. You'll get to sample the practitioners that we have that are amazing from all over the community. So the main thrust of what we're trying to communicate here in this series, in the Living in Wellness series, is that self-care is not selfish. And for so many women, they have, oh my gosh, spent themselves on behalf of others. I mean, Socorro and I talk about this frequently, keeping our cups full. And it's just perfect timing that the two of us should be having this conversation, as a matter of fact, because she's a busy working mom. And so am I. And so are many of the women that we work with. But they are often finding themselves depleted, snarky, snipey, resentful, struggling to see the future as positive when their cup is not full. So it's not selfish to take care of you. And there are many ways that we can do that. So I'm so excited to help you hopefully gain some more knowledge, some more tips, and be able to do that, because I too know I will have my pen out when I'm listening to Socorro today. She is incredible. I'm so grateful to have her with us. She's a registered dietitian. She is the founder of Peak Nutrition Academy. She's a doctoral candidate herself and a graduate level professor who speaks to students on nutrition every day. So it's pretty exciting. I'm super honored to know her and to be working with her. She personally, as I mentioned, has up-leveled my health and my family's health. And it's really helped me to deal with some genetic predispositions, also known as a genetic curse. And so I'm so thankful that I can work with what I've been given to find optimal health. And she's a big part in that. So I really hope that you'll enjoy her today. So without any further wait, let's just introduce Socorro. Socorro, can you say hi and let us know where you're from and what you're up to right now?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Julie, for having me today. I really appreciate, being on this with you. I am from Los Angeles, California. I live specifically in the Northridge area with my family, my 2 boys and my husband. And that's a little bit about where I'm from.
Awesome. Thank you. So tell us how you got into the health and wellness industry and to begin with. What's your story?
It's interesting that you mention about, women and how sometimes, taking care of our families and ourselves, right? It kind of started like that. I saw the women in my family just, putting in so much, and a big part of it was their food, right? Feeding the family and making sure that the family's healthy too. Um, but I started, very early on, I saw the impact that health had on quality of life,
Hmm.
and specifically nutrition. I saw that, I saw the link. There's a big link here between what people eat and how healthy or not they are. And if they're not healthy, it affects the quality of life. And if it affects the quality of life, it affects the whole family. So in essence, I, that's why I decided, and actually my grandmother was one of the first um, to get a disease that I remember. She was diagnosed with diabetes, and she went to the doctor, and they told her she needed to watch her portions. They sent her to I think a nutritionist or dietitian. But back then it was a really quick in visit, in and out. And not only that, but I think just the circumstances around the language barrier, all of that made it difficult for her to understand. And I remember her coming back and saying, you know what? She told me I needed to eat, a certain portion, but I mean, what is a portion and how much? So
Mm.
seeing that confusion, and just having just the background that I just told you, knowing the impact, I made it a point to want to get into learning more and getting into the health field. Originally, I thought I was going to be a physician, but then I fell in love with nutrition, and I'm like, you know what? Actually, nutrition is where it starts. If
Mhm.
you can get it there, you won't need a doctor in the future. You know what
Wow.
I'm saying? So yeah, that's why I got involved in nutrition.
That's a bold statement for you, of all people, to say, but I love it. And I know how much one of your tenets of the work that you do is that nutrition does have the power to heal.
Yes.
And it's incredible, but it's something I think we've taken for granted. We don't understand. It's misunderstood. In fact, what are some of the pet peeves what's a pet peeve or some pet peeves you have about that industry yourself? Like really, what bothers you in people's understanding of nutrition?
Um, a few things. I think number one, people don't understand the importance, like I said, of what you put in your body. You know, you can avoid so many things down the line just by investing in what you put in. So just the fact that I think most of us tend to be more reactive toward health.
Mm,
Health is one of my biggest things, because by the time you're sick, there's years of things that have happened, probably lifestyle that isn't optimal. Your diet isn't optimal. So I think if you start early, you can prevent that. But yeah, that's one of my biggest things, where it's more of a reactive thing. And when you go to a doctor, they try to fix the symptoms of what the
mm,
problems, but they don't, not to say anything bad about medicine. I love, I have a close family member that's in medicine, and
right.
but I think even medicine in general is heading more toward prevention versus
Wow.
versus just trying to, mask the symptoms or help with the symptoms.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I was laughing when you said that because yes, very close. They don't come any closer, actually. So yes, we all know and we all do have great respect for medicine because where would we be without it? But I do appreciate that you and your husband actually balance both sides of the coin in terms of prevention and, helping us when we definitely need it. Where would we be without Western medicine? So we need
Mhm.
both. What would you recommend is one thing people should stop doing from your position? Well, if there was one thing they needed to stop doing, what would it be?
When you told me about this question, I had to really think about it, because like my list is like 20 points, but
Oh
I'm like,
no.
if I were to limit it to one or two, I limit it to two. Number
Okay, that's
one,
fair.
number one is stop going on extreme diets. They do not
Mm,
work. They do not work, because when you go on an extreme diet, it usually means that not only is it painful for your mind, but it's painful for your body, right? And it's torture. So if you feel tortured, that's not sustainable. It isn't.
wow.
So when you get to that point, and people, and they're effective temporarily, right? You
Right.
lose. I hear it all the time. People come in and they're like, yeah, I went on this and I lost 25 pounds. Even I just saw the person the other day. I lost 50 pounds, but then I stopped and I gained 57. So
Oh my
she gained
gosh.
50 plus 7 more. So I number one, don't do extreme diets, because it usually means that it's too big of a change and it's not sustainable.
Okay.
Um, so that's number one. And number two, a really quick fix for most of my clients is don't drink your calories. If you can stop drinking your calories, you can probably help yourself by not including extra excess calories. On a daily basis, if I go through my clients kind of like 24-hour recall of what they ate.
Hmm.
Um, Easily, people drink between 300 to even 600 calories a day just with their drinks, and this includes like their Starbucks run in the morning, their soda or sweetened tea in the afternoon, their juice in between as a snack, so it adds up. So those would be the two things I think.
Wow, that's really, really helpful. Don't drink your calories. I hadn't even thought about that because you're right. Whether it's the Starbucks, like a nice vanilla latte, I have no idea how many calories there are, but probably a lot in the sugar. And then a soda maybe in the afternoon, or forget soda. You're not a soda person. You drink coffee and juice. In my mind, I drink coffee and I drink juice and maybe some wine. I could have a lot of calories there
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
one day and drink up all my calories. I never thought about that. That's a really good one. Okay, since I know you have 25 stops, could you give us actually 2 starts?
I can do two starts. So number one, I think, and again, the way that I came up with these is just reflecting on kind of what I tell people on a
Yeah.
daily, and what's probably the biggest, most effective way to kind of get them to eat healthier in a short period of time. So the one thing is fill up your plate, half of your plate in vegetables.
Okay.
Because if you fill up half of the plate in vegetables, and this is without sauces or things like that, like creamy things that make it taste a little better, right? Um, so if you fill up half of the plate in vegetables, you're really crowding out the other groups that have a bigger impact on negatively on your health if you have too large of a portions. So I'm talking about like the starches and the protein, whereas if it's too much excessively on a daily basis, it can affect your health.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
would be my first half of your plate in vegetables. And snacking. That's another problem that I think most Americans have is we like to snack a lot, especially because we live in a stressful society where, stress is there, and you get the munchies or whatever, right? So I highly recommend, if you're going to snack, just use fruit as snack. Obviously, it depends on a little bit of your background and whether you're diabetic or not, but fruit as a snack, I think, is a great snack. If you want to couple it with a little bit of protein, like a small handful of nuts, that would be ideal. But yeah, so fruit as snacks would probably cut a whole lot of calories as well.
That's really great. I really love, because having worked with you, that I remember very distinctly, you taught me that plate method of the half of the veggies, and
Mhm.
I still use it to this day, and I actually use it with my kids and my husband, and they're always like, "Gosh, mom, you have so much salad and so many you need a vegetable and this too," and I'm like, "Yes, we need all that." And it does, I think not only does it push out what I've noticed for myself is push out, like, the room for the other less beneficial foods, but it also psychologically does something for me. Like I'm not like skimping on myself when they're all having something big. I feel like I'm having just as much as they are, even though
Yeah,
it's maybe a different type of food.
exactly. And that's the beauty of it. Like you don't have to take out some of the foods that you really love.
Mhm.
It's just how you put it on your plate. And in terms of volume, it's the same volume. It's
Mhm.
just in terms of calories, it's not the same calories.
Yeah.
It's like 2,000 calories versus like 1,200 or even 1,000 if you just do that small little change.
Yeah. That
So,
small change is so helpful because I know for me too, that's where the inflammation came, which was part of my genetic, neuropathy was part of my genetic hand down. And so I think that, I remember when I talked to you about the aches and pains in my ankles and my fingers and wrists and feet and stuff like that. And then when we changed even that, the inflammation started to subside because there wasn't the room for the gluten and the, sauces and all those other things, the dairy and all those things that, are that obviously, well, not obviously, but for me, really contribute to the inflammation, which then creates the pain for me. So
Yeah,
it was a
exactly.
lot.
And it
Yeah.
makes sense because the plant-based foods, especially vegetables, they are the natural healers of nature.
Mm,
Like they have these plants do provide things like fiber, and fiber, feeds the good bacteria. The good bacteria make things that we cannot make that is anti-inflammatory. Like they're called short-chain fatty acids. So that helps bring down the inflammation. So it makes sense what you're saying. And it also just like the antioxidants, so it helps against cancer. I mean, so many different things that vegetables in general can provide for health. But the biggest thing is make sure that you get variety. So variety is
yeah.
important too, like different
Yeah.
colors, things like that.
Yeah. That's so helpful. So if you could give us one key wellness tip, what would that be? That's a
Um,
hard one too, I'm sure, to only give one.
Yeah, this one I did bring it down, and I think I got it down to one. And I tell this to my clients all the time. Just, we would be healthier if we just look back 100 years in our history. How did
Right.
people do things? They cooked everything at home. So if we can do that, cooking more at home, cooking less out, especially things that are fast, it would be a game changer too, because when you cook at home, you really know what you're putting in your food.
Mm.
You're getting fresher ingredients, things like that. So if you can just do that, have, plan your meals to where every day you're making them at home, I think that can be a really key game changing wellness tip.
Cheaper too, huh?
Cheaper
Financially
too.
benefit too. My husband and I were just joking. You go out to dinner and it's like maybe 40, 50, 60, $70 for a steak, right? These days.
Mhm.
And you can buy like a whole thing of steaks, from Costco or organic meat or wherever, and share it. And then like salmon was $42 went this one restaurant that I just went to. And I got two beautiful pieces of salmon for my husband and I for 17. you
Wow.
know so it's not only is it, do I know what's in it and it tastes really great, I love that, but it also, my gosh, it does wonders for your pocketbook too.
Absolutely. Especially now.
Yeah, and I think people complain about saying that healthy eating is expensive, but honestly, if you cook it yourself, it's cheaper. It really is cheaper.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what would you say have been some, exciting, well, what are some misconceptions and myths? Let's start first about your field.
The biggest one, because my kind of my area that I really love working in is diabetes. One of the biggest misconceptions, not only for blood sugar but for weight management, is that carbs are bad.
Mm,
Um, and that is a big misconception because carbohydrates, when you decrease carbs, you unfortunately increase fat and protein, and fat, especially fat, can cause a lot of havoc in your body. I start noticing people's blood lipids, so like the LDL, the triglycerides, all of that go up, and that kind of puts you off balance. Now you have an issue with possible heart problems, right? Or increasing the animal protein. So you don't want to completely cut out the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a fuel source. The way that I tell people, to kind of make it easier to understand, the machine that we all are very familiar with is the car, right?
mhm.
So the car needs gas to run. At the moment that it's on empty, it's not going anywhere, right? So I tell people the carbohydrates are our fuel source. They're our gas. So if you don't get enough of it, you're going to start feeling like a headache and tired and things like that, and that's not good, because that's your brain telling you, I need more fuel, just to feed the brain. This is like if you fed nothing else in the body but just the brain, we would need 125 grams of carbs.
Wow.
Like, I'm not going to tell you how much that translates, because that's a bit too much information, but the reason I'm mentioning that is just to show you that it is necessary to have a certain amount just to keep the brain going. So it is important. So that's the biggest misconception. Now, the kind of carbs, that's where people need to, I think need to get a little bit more involved in choosing better quality carbs.
Okay.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
like the whole grains and things like that versus the refined grains and things like that. So
Wow, that's really, really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, yay, I can have my carbs again. It's just, because it has been seeming like something that's been passed around for quite some time. Like you just try and have like, you know, the keto or the Atkins or things like that have almost no carbs involved. And, it's just protein and fat and that's and like, I guess a little vegetables, which is technically carbs, but a better quality carbs. I agree. Wow, that's so helpful. I did not know that about the brain. That is no wonder people get headaches and kind of lightheaded or just kind of spacey during the day if they're eating that way.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things too, like this is hot in the market right now. I mean, in terms of the information out there, they're noticing too that the carbohydrates play a huge role on your microbiome composition. So what kind of bacteria grow in your intestine. So if you up the protein, it changes it. If you decrease or if you include the carbs, it changes it. So that is exciting new information. I think 10 years down the line, they're going to know a lot more about this. So I think, stay tuned for that in the future. People are going to start seeing, just the impact of changing even the macros and like in this case, the carbohydrates, protein, fat, things like that in your diet as well on just your gut health.
Wow. 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 Gosh, I could talk to you for another half hour about that. But no, we don't have time. You just opened up a can of worms.
I did.
Okay. So many incredible things that we could talk to Socorro about. I was going to ask her about some stories that maybe have inspired her, of people that she's helped for sure. But then I did want to touch on one more little thing before we let her go. Just so before that though, Socorro, tell about either your family story or, anything that's inspired you about people that have made the changes, because sometimes we hear about all the things, don't do this, start doing this. But then where's the real life evidence of this working and creating better quality of life, which is what you said you got into this for?
Yes. I think of one particular, and this one is close to my heart because this person in particular, all of her life, she was overweight. All of her life, very strong family history of diabetes, everything. But it was in her mind is like, okay, that's just the way I am. I've always been big and that I can't change that. Right. And she had a sister. So the sister was a skinny one and she was the plumpy one. Right.
Oh gosh, that's fun.
So all their life, she's a skinny one, she's the plumpy one. So it wasn't until her 40s she started working with me, and she lost like 30 pounds, I think, that first week, and then she started. She was just so motivated by the changes. She started exercising. Well, now she's the skinny one in the family. And just overall, like just everything in her life has changed her outlook. And that's what I love about what I do. When people feel good, when they feel healthy, when they feel, changing your health changes everything, and your motivation for the future, even how far you think you can reach. People like step their bounds because they're in fear that, okay, this is how I have to live. No, it's not how you have to live. You can, and it's all in your power. And that's the beauty of nutrition. It's in your hands. You can do it.
I love that. I love that. It's so empowering. Now, you didn't say she lost 30 pounds the first week, did you?
No. First year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like 6 months, something like that. She lost like 30 pounds in 6 months, and then she kept it off successfully. And she's, taken a little bit longer to lose the rest of it, but it's steady and she's consistent. So she hasn't gained it back, which is key, because so many stories that we hear is people like, oh, you look great, and all of a sudden, like a year or two later, they're back.
Yeah, no, I've heard that for sure. That for sure. Gosh, Socorro, the work you're doing is so important. It's just so, so important. I tell you that every time we talk, but I just love what you do, your heart, your understanding, you're so knowledgeable. One of the things that Socorro and I have talked about, and I just found out about this is for the listeners, but I just found out about the fact that Socorro and some of her team members have created what they call these pop-up segments where they actually ask people to bring their blood panels, their lab reports, to a video session with them Socorro has an actual presentation about what that means, all those pieces and of the blood work and what they might mean to you, what it's measuring, what it's means for you in terms of your health and what you could do about it. And I don't know about the rest of you out there listening, but I have never had that done, had someone sit with me and explain to me my blood work and what each one of those things means and how I could do something about it if I needed to. So we're just throwing this out there right now. We're not going to be able to obviously do that at this time. But if you are in fact interested in having a session with Socorro, with myself and Socorro, and I'll just host it. I'm not the brain here, but she is the one that would be able to do the presentation about what this means, your blood work, your blood panel, and then make sense of it so that you can take action with it. She said it's been remarkable to see that the people are being able to take, as she just mentioned, control of their own health, that it is actually, wellness is in their hands, and they have, with this knowledge, they're able to do so much more. So I'm just putting that out there. That was kind of a little extra that Socorro and I discussed. And if you're interested in that, then say something in the comments. Say, yes, please, more on the blood panel, just maybe blood panel work, blood panel work, blood panel work. You can just put that, comment in the chat, in the comments, in any conversation you want to reply to us in, the email, however you want to communicate with us. But we will do probably a special edition of Socorro being able to speak to that presentation, be able to present that work, that information, and then be able to even ask some questions live for those that participate. So I'm just throwing it out there. Let us know if that's of interest to you. We try very hard to serve the needs of the people here. Socorro and I love working together too. It would just give us another excuse to come back to you guys. But before we do go, Socorro, thank you so much for joining us. Where would people be able to get in touch with you if they wanted to?
Probably email is the best way. Now, my name I know is a little bit hard, so just if you look right there, if you write it exactly as it is, Socorro, at peaknutritionacademy.com. All one, so Socorro at peaknutritionacademy.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Socorro is also on Facebook. You can find her there as well, and private message her, and Instagram as well. So she's there. We'll make sure that you have all that information. And for those of you who want to, follow her, please do. She is, as you can see, a wealth of information, and just so, I don't know, to me, there's always something so disarming about you, Socorro. I always have gotten very intimidated by, healthcare professionals, because I feel like they speak over my head and I can't keep up and I don't know what they're talking about. And you are always so disarming. You make me feel like I can understand and I can take charge of my own health. So I just wanted to say a personal thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, you're the best. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us for this edition of This is Living. You can see why we call this an elevated way of thinking, believing, and therefore living your life, because with this new information, you too can open some new doors for yourself. And that is our great hope. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to having you potentially join us for more. Like, follow, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Have a great day. And thank you again.